This morning's Icons.
The way she spoke and the way she walked, she had style. Even when she walked into a room, she didn't walk into it, she entranced.
When she's up on that screen, everybody else fades. She's so powerful.
And she didn't give a damn what people thought of her. She knew what she wanted, and she wanted to be a success in the cinema, and she was.
Bette Davis went to Hollywood in the early 30s, and at that time she was blonde. She was made blonde, down to her eyebrows as well. She looked like a little starlet. And in those 30s films, that was the look which predominated, not just her, but other people as well. By the time she gets to the late 30s and 40s, which is her big era, if you like, and when she starred in all of her big melodramas, she had reverted to darker hair, and she had developed a way of having her eyes made up, for example, so that they were the most important feature on her face.
The first film I saw with Bette Davis was The Old Maid. I went, it was a state cinema, Barkingside. I went with my mother, and she loved the film. She was a fan of Bette Davis too. And she was with Miriam Hopkins. And although she was a strong actress too, Miriam Hopkins, but she sort of faded into the wallpaper when Bette Davis came down those stairs. She didn't have eyes, she had orbs, those great orbs of hers. They flashed, and you knew jolly well what she meant when she looked at a man or whatever, or a curve of her lip.
She could even change her mood by expression on her face, or the way she held her eyes and rolled her eyes sometimes. And she didn't need any gimmicks like blonde hair or frills. She came out of the screen, and you could feel for her. When she cried, you cried. When she was bad-tempered, you were bad-tempered because you felt for her. She really did impress.
As I've got older, Bette Davis is really one of the best actresses I've ever seen. I mean, to me as a girl, she was quite scary. I wouldn't like to have met her because she would have terrified me. But I think that was Bette Davis's forte, wasn't it? She was this scary lady that everybody was frightened of. I couldn't imagine anybody telling Bette Davis what to do. She inspired women to be strong, and I think to be themselves.
Bette Davis really challenged Hollywood makeup at that time. They just wanted their stars to look glamorous and beautiful. She was more of a realist. She wanted to get into her part completely. And one of the things she did was apparently plucked her nose hair out to make her cry on set. Bette's eyes were definitely her prominent feature, but in one of her early photo shoots, the Westmores tried to make her look like Garbo, and she was absolutely indignant about this. She said there was nothing about her that was like Garbo at all. But they did manage to talk her into changing the shape of the lips, and what they actually did was draw an almost straight line across the top lip and lengthen the lower lip line with pencil, so the whole effect was a very much fuller lip. And that balanced her face, gave her more symmetry. With her large eyes and her large lips, suddenly everything looked much better.
Bette Davis's hair doesn't do a lot for me. It's not what I'd see as a Hollywood icon's hair should be. It wasn't particularly glamorous, it wasn't really directional, it wasn't particularly sort of trend-setting, although it probably was very practical and copied at that time by millions of women.
The hairstyles were adapted to each film that she was in, and some made her look dreadful and others made her look glamorous. She had her own styling dresses which no other actress could have carried off, or would want to, I should imagine.
In her heyday, Bette Davis was the most bankable Hollywood star, especially in terms of getting women into the cinema. She was too threatening, in a way, though, to be a classic male icon. In quite a few of her narratives, she is seen to discard boring men and seen to go after sometimes unobtainable but more interesting men. So therefore, there's always the potential that Bette Davis is going to turn you down.
Because Bette wasn't a natural beauty, I think she wasn't threatening to women at all, and I think she would have given them a lot of inspiration because people could emulate her look, even if they didn't have perfect features, and still look very glamorous. To copy the look nowadays, I'd start off with quite a natural foundation and blush colour. And then the eyebrows are a key part of this. They must be quite strongly arched, so pluck from underneath to open up that arch area and then darken the colour a little. If you really did have large prominent eyes like Bette Davis, the key thing is to never wear sort of shiny or light colours on the eyelids. So all the colours must be quite deep or medium shades and very matte. When it comes to lips, there are a lot of tricks of the trade to be learnt from Bette. So to make your lips look fuller, line them with a pencil. You can go slightly beyond the lip line. You can go for that almost straight look across the top lip. And you can lengthen the lower lip. Then you fill in with a very deep red shade. And then lastly, a little lip gloss just in the centre of the lower lip to make the lips look very full.
To create the Bette Davis look today, you would need to use conventional setting technique, i.e. rollers on a wet set with a strong setting lotion, because you really need to force the waves into the hair. The hair would be somewhere between the sort of jawline and just sitting on the shoulders. It has to be quite a layered hairstyle to create the sort of curves and the movement around the face. And you'd set the hair wet using a strong setting lotion because the style is quite rigid and quite solid. Set on a side parting. And you would put the rollers in parallel to the parts of the hairline so they create a wave. Around the edges and around the back, use smaller rollers and just pin them up into place. You go under a hood dryer and you have to let the hair dry. And then you brush it through, forcing and moulding the hair and the waves into place. And then backcomb it to create a little bit of fullness on top, using a strong hairspray to hold it.
when you come onto a film like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and the film that she made after that, she, in a sense, has resigned herself to the fact that she's no longer a glamorous film star. In the same film, you get Joan Crawford still aspiring to look like the glamorous Crawford of her heyday in the 40s and 50s, I think. Whereas Bette Davis has the most diabolical makeup, which she herself slapped on in the mornings. She doesn't mind looking that ghastly.
Talent got her through, and intelligence got her through, whereas lots of people relied on the looks. You saw them for a little while and then they disappeared into mists of time. But Bette Davis was working on television films right through till she nearly died. And I think she was a women's champion, especially for the women that weren't born beautiful or with a silver spoon in the mouth.
Davis's health wasn't all that good towards the end, and yet she appeared, I think it was Death on the Nile, and she was a very old lady then, but she was spunky. It was her manner, how she treated life. It was as, you know, she's not going to be pushed around. That was her. Nobody was going to get the better of her, and that's what I liked. I wished I could have been like that.